Hey everybody, my name is Preet Banerjee. Welcome back to Spent. I'm joined as always by Derek Fung, and we're going to break down how people are really spending their money by looking at some of the largest purchase panels in North America. Derek, welcome back to the show.
Hey, good to be back, Preet.
So this week we are going to be talking about holiday spending. And, at first blush, you would think with this global pandemic, holiday spending is going to take a big hit, but maybe the data shows something else. But I want to know, what do you have planned for your spending for the holidays, whether it's Black Friday or the holiday season at the end of the year?
Yeah, I just bought I don't know if you spent anything on Amazon Prime Day, but I bought a Roomba.
Oh, yeah.
So I bought a Roomba. I've been buying a lot of plants, a lot of just at-home stuff to make my place more, nicer, more chill. Some more office equipment, computer electronics, bunch of that. Also maybe some like at-home fitness equipment. So now that gyms...
More than the Peloton you already have?
Even more. Thinking about it now that gyms are closed again.
Oh, right. Yeah. I think there's going to be another uptake definitely in fitness sales overall with the second wave and the colder weather coming, the double whammy. Yeah. So there you go. Are you going to buy more Peloton stock?
Some more Lululemon apparel. We've got a really awesome offers on drop for Lululemon. I don't know if you've got any. It's so comfortable. Like they've got these ABC tech pants. Like they just
the anti-ball crushing. Did you know that's what it stands for?
Really?
Yeah, anti-ball crushing.
I had no idea.
The funny thing is, I was lectured about this by 3 65-year-old men in St. John, New Brunswick, and I thought, this is the most uncomfortable conversation I've ever had. And they were talking about anti-ball crushing shorts, and I just, get me out of here. But this is apparently a big thing, so that's what ABC stands for. I
had no idea. My phone is also ringing right now. Maybe I'll buy a phone silencer as well for the holidays.
Excellent. Let's dive into it, shall we? And to answer your question about Prime Day, did I buy anything? I believe I bought some memory cards, so some extra SD cards, because those are things that I always need, and I know that they always go on sale on Prime Day, so that's when I kind of stack up for the year. But let's take a look at the first question. So we asked a whole bunch of people about their planned spending for the upcoming holiday seasons, and what did the data say?
Yeah, so we did a report, and you can find the report. It'll be published on Cardify's website, which is down below. And we ran a survey through Drop and surveyed about 7,000 people. It was very interesting to see the results. So as we've been talking about over the last many episodes, we're in a global pandemic, and it's been interesting to see the impacts. I'd say that the dip and consumer confidence going into the holidays is, when I first saw the data, it was less than I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. A lot of consumers are still planning to spend over the holiday season for various reasons, which I'm sure we'll talk about today. We also looked at the data across various cities, across also US versus Canada. But generally, the dip is smaller than we thought it would be, which is very positive for any company that, whether you're a retailer or tech company that's relying on the Q4 holiday season. It's so far looking more positive than we thought, and that's high level what the data is showing.
Yeah, and this chart here that we're looking at, when you ask people how much will you spend during the holiday season compared to last year, almost half said it's going to be the same, and there's about 20% of people said it's going to actually be more. And there's some people who say less and a lot less. But it was kind of shocking how many people basically say it's pretty much going to be the same. So that dip is a lot softer than I think a lot of people would have naturally expected, given this global, unprecedented health and economic crisis. But let's dig a little bit deeper. You also asked people about the different categories of where they're going to spend money. And what did they say is where they were looking to spend their money specifically?
Yeah, it's funny. It's all the things that I'm looking to buy. So consumer electronics, Of course, a lot of folks are going to be ordering food home this holiday season. So a lot of food delivery, apparel, in certain cities, beauty. It's interesting to see how certain cities differ. So some of the warmer climate cities and states and provinces, more people spending on things like beauty versus on the East Coast, more people spending on things like pets, which is very interesting. Of course, the category that across the board everyone is saying, "Yep, this is not interesting to us," is travel.
Right.
So consumer electronics, home, pets, for some beauty, apparel. These are the major categories that people plan to spend a ton of money on.
Yeah, for me, certainly it's going to be on the consumer electronics. So I've been doing a lot of research the last couple of weeks, waiting for the prices to start dropping before I kind of pull the trigger. Certainly have no travel plans, and I think that's going to be a combination of a couple things: the travel restrictions, also as we're entering second wave, and the athleisure. Like I've noticed a lot of people are buying a lot more just clothing for around the house because this has become sort of like the new normal, and they want to be comfy around the home. Now, the next chart we're looking at is the planned spending compared to the last year by age group. And essentially, if you take a look at this, the pink represents the people who are going to spend a lot less. On the other end of the spectrum, that purple color is people who are going to spend a lot more. And as you work down the age groups, you can see that there is this sort of general trend. And so what is that trend that you guys saw?
Yeah, the general trend is the younger the age group, the more that they plan to spend over the holidays. So the less of a impact on spend. So Gen Z being the generation that actually plan to spend more than some of the other generations. And for various reasons, I think one, younger generations tend to spend a ton more disposable income on travel experiences. So things like music festivals, for example. And I think a lot of that money is just being redirected into the holiday season. Now that second wave is starting to come in many cities, and a lot of people still can't travel. So yeah, the younger the generation, the more bullish the sentiment on holiday spending.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. There's certainly substitution effects where, if you're not allowed to spend money on travel, which is generally larger purchases, you may be sitting on a little bit more cash. And so you might say, well, I'll spend it on something else. And during the holidays, you got extra money. Maybe you're going to plan to spend more than last year. The other thing, though, I'll say about, that Generation Z group, 24 and under in this data, the difference from 22 to 23 is also, hopefully you graduate, you're working, and your income is probably going up year by year at hopefully a decent clip. And so you might just have more money to spend as well. But I do think it's probably being mostly driven by the substitution effects, as you mentioned. Just they haven't been able to spend on the things that they normally have. So they've got a little bit more cash sitting around.
Yeah,
now
I think
this.
one more really quick thing is I actually think they're also more shielded from the stock market. So I think a lot of the older generations maybe were more adversely hit from the stock market, and maybe some of their portfolios are still down. So I think that may have also an impact as well.
Yeah, that makes sense to me because I see a lot of younger traders very deeply exposed to tech. So people tend to have a familiarity bias in their stock trading. So they buy what they know, and they buy a lot of online brands which have been doing really well during the pandemic. And so they may not have seen very many losses at all in some cases with their investments. So there may not be that sort of correlation as you talked about with that you see in older generations. Now, this chart was very interesting. So these are the plans to when people are going to start their holiday shopping. And basically, it looks like the older you are, the better you are at planning ahead. You just start shopping for the holidays sooner.
Yeah.
Although you could say that, maybe if you look at the Gen Z chart where there's that big spike during Black Friday, maybe they're just more savvy about looking for deals. What's your take?
Yeah, it's interesting. This year has been already a very different holiday season. I mean, it's already started. As you know, Amazon moved their Prime Day from July to October. And it was this past week that Amazon had Prime Day, and Target and some of the other Walmart, some of the other competitors have all started competing as well. And so you could argue older demographics maybe are doing more spending on things like home goods, and a lot of those deals have already started. So I think it's a bit of planning and also a bit of a self-fulfilling based on what they're looking to buy. A lot of those companies are just doing things much earlier this year. It's like every day is Black Friday is a quote that I'm seeing more and more. And so maybe the younger generation, they're waiting for the big sales for the products they love, consumer electronics, for example, or Pelotons, which we've talked about. And a lot of those companies won't be doing their sales until Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So I think it's a bit of both the planning and also the nature of the things that they're looking to buy.
Yeah, and when we take a look at differences by country in terms of planned spending compared to the prior year, you found that there was a slight difference between Canada and the United States. What did you find here?
Yeah, I'd say the most interesting one is Canadians are planning that, they're planning to shift some of their spending away from Boxing Day, which is traditionally the big holiday, to Black Friday. And I think a big part of that is because a lot of deals are now coming online. Remember when I was growing up, you hear about all the Black Fridays in the US, and you see all the lines, and us Canadians are always like, oh, okay, it's not as crazy here in Canada. But this year, I think, as we talked about earlier, all these retailers are moving online, whether it's a big box retailer or even like the thousands of Shopify or tens of thousands of Shopify storefronts. So it's becoming a very much more blended period of time, and I think there's just going to be deals all the time. And as Canadians, I love to take advantage of some of the big Black Friday deals happening in the US. And I'd say, before this year, it just wasn't doable because you actually had to be there in person, versus this year, it's all coming online.
Right. And the data on this chart shows that if you look at the two different countries, Canadians are pulling back the spending a little bit more compared to our compatriots down in the States. But to your point, this chart I thought was really fascinating because for the longest time, and again, when I was growing up, Black Friday was not a Canadian thing. It was very much a US spectacle. And you'd see the news reports of people getting trampled trying to get into those stores earlier. But this is, online sales has grown tremendously, and Black Friday has become a Canadian sales event as well. And so in this data, this is breaking it down by city when people planned to spend the most. And I'll draw the viewer's attention to the last grouping, and that is people in Toronto, Canadian city. 47% of them said that they were going to start their spending, their big spend, on Black Friday. And that's actually higher than New York and Los Angeles, which is also on this chart. And again, you would think, well, I thought Black Friday was just a US thing. But to your point, because sales have moved online, these digital borders are easier to cross. And so I think a lot of retailers are saying, well, if this is creating a buying frenzy, let's just ride the wave and extend those sales to, Canadians. And so now a lot of Canadian retailers, even those who don't have exposure in the US, have Black Friday sales, and then as well the Cyber Monday sales. So it is interesting to see that Canadians are actually looking more forward to starting their spend on Black Friday than Americans, because it's always traditionally been an American sort of sales event.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I guess, the takeaway message from all this is you would have expected that with this pandemic and, arguably the greatest financial and economic hit we'll see in our lifetimes, would have had more of an effect on people's planned intention to spend money. So it's kind of like good news, bad news. Good news for the economy in that, money's going to be circulating in the economy. The economic hit is not going to be as bad. People have been waiting for, the sales uptick as we've seen the reductions in the lockdowns and what have you. But what is your take on this? Does this, how do you feel about this data?
Yeah, no, I feel like the data does speak to, where I thought it would What I would say in that, I think what's driving a lot of this is, yes, consumer confidence has come down, and spending has come down, but also at the same time, retailers for since lockdown for months pulled back all their marketing, pulled back, just we're just on standby. We heard about bankruptcies for some retailers, but we also heard of others thriving. I think it's a lot of the retailers all coming back online, pun intended, shifting
Right.
to a lot of online sales, but also, there's gonna be a lot of discounting. It's like every day there's gonna be deals across the board. Amazon already kicked it off this week. We've got Black Friday, we've got Cyber Monday, Boxing Day, but I think beyond those days, there's just gonna be so many deals because there's either, excess inventory
Mm,
or when one retailer sees another one of their big competitors discounting heavily, they have to at least match. So I think
right.
it's a culmination of all these brands just really wanting to capture the attention of consumers. And if they do it properly, I do think consumers will spend, and that's what the survey is saying.
Yeah, I think there's also, we've talked about this in previous episodes when you talk about, breaking down by income group. It's the lower income groups who have been hit hardest. And people who are more white collar and work in jobs where they're able to work from home, they haven't necessarily lost their jobs yet. And they haven't been able to spend money because of a lot of these restrictions, these health restrictions. So
Yeah,
I think the New York Times called them, the new super savers, because they're
yeah,
sitting on all this money because their income
yeah,
hasn't changed very much, but their ability to spend it has been restricted. So they like, well, what do I do with all this money? And so that may, when you put it into aggregate, might mask the differences by income groups. So certainly the people who have lost their jobs and have gone through any emergency funds that they have are now living on borrowed money. Certainly, I don't think they're going to be spending very much at all. But in the aggregate, especially because there's been so many people who have been able to spend, have the higher income, maybe it kind of like washes out a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out by those different income groups.
yeah.
But if people want to learn more, so we just covered a couple of the charts in this report. Where would they go?
Yeah. Yeah, the website is Cardify.ai. You can find it down below in the link section. Ton of really awesome reports. Many of them recently being covered by the likes of Bloomberg and Wall Street Journal, which is super exciting. So there's clearly a ton of interesting, demanding coverage of this panel data that you and I have been, talking about for the last many months, and only validation that this data is very telling of what has happened and what is to come. And as we discussed today, for more elaborate view of the survey, you can just click on the link below, Cardify.ai.
Excellent. All right, we'll leave it there for this episode, Derek, but we'll see you in the next one.
See you soon.